Why did you ultimately decide you were going to go through with this?
Because I got a cannon. I'm going to show it off.
That's Will Levis. Killer Bees love him, specifically Jeremy Branham. And I guess because he threw at the NFL Combine, there's lots of reasons to be excited about him. I have a question for some of you guys listening today. And I know I don't sound like the biggest sports fan all the time, but if you were watching the NFL Combine this weekend and you weren't being paid to do it, what is wrong with you? That's all I got. What is wrong with you? Why would you watch the NFL Combine? I don't get it. Whoa, did you see that 40 time he ran? Yeah, you can see the highlights afterwards. Anything you need to see from the NFL Combine, you can just look it up after the fact. Watching it live. People do it. I don't know if the TV ratings came out for the NFL Combine. I'm going to be embarrassed. Not quite as embarrassed as I am about the amount of people who used to watch the Pro Bowl about 3 years ago, but I still will be embarrassed about it. Here's what happened at the NFL Combine, which is overrated, overplayed, and should not change people's opinions the way that it does every single weekend. We found out that Bryce Young is officially short. He's 5'10 and 1/8, measuring the same as Kyler Murray did at the NFL Combine. He's 204 pounds. He's been listed by Alabama as 6 foot tall. Whoa, that's a lie. That's like a Hinge dating profile. 194 pounds. Interesting things to note about Bryce Young. The height thing, for some who have discussed Bryce, is not going to hurt him that much. People are more concerned about the frame. I thought it was very interesting to note that Russell Wilson, who is an inch taller, went to the 2012 NFL Combine also weighing 204 pounds. So there is certainly potential for Bryce Young to add weight. He's going to have to eat a bleep ton of food, but if Mauricio Dubon can add 15 pounds, I think that Bryce Young can too. It's the NFL. They get all sorts of great nutrition. I do have concerns about his size and his height, but there's no denying that if you watch this past season, Young was the best quarterback, and I think we got to keep it in our pants because of things that happened this weekend, making us all of a sudden believe that these other quarterbacks are better. It is possible for Bryce Young to add to that frame. I don't know how much more, but I think that we got to calm down a bit with the height and acting like 5'10 and 1/8 is going to take him off of teams' draft boards. I imagine the Houston Texans still like him very much, and I imagine there's going to be some team that wants to trade into that number one spot still to draft Bryce Young based off of what you saw from him on film behind an Alabama offensive line that was not particularly good last year, and of course the year before. Everyone, meanwhile, has a giant pants tent, including Sean Mapes, who tweeted that out, about Florida Gator quarterback Anthony Richardson. And why not? He's 6'4", 244 pounds. He had a 10-9 broad jump. Ooh, wow. That's the most for a quarterback in Combine history. He had a 40.5 vertical jump. Oh, wow. That's the best for a quarterback in Combine history. He ran a 4.4 440. He ran a 4.4 340. He reached a top speed that was faster than anybody in the NFL this past year. He almost landed a backflip at the end of the Combine. Oh, yeah, and he threw a 60-yard bomb. Let's forget about all the passes over the middle of the field that he completely missed because it's the guy who had a 54% completion percentage with the Florida Gators. Someone that I watched on the regular, who I know is very inconsistent, even though he has some amazing moments, and some team is going to tell themselves that they can coach this guy into being a consistent player. There is no denying that he is athletic AF. This should not have changed your opinion on Anthony Richardson going into this year's draft. He is a first-round caliber quarterback prospect. Is he the first quarterback overall taken? Probably shouldn't be. Probably shouldn't be. And that's all I got. I'm not ruling out what he's going to be able to do the rest of his career. But some of you guys need to be shoved into a shower and put ice cold water with a pressure washer needs to be blasted on your spine. Calm down. Calm down. He might be good. He might not. That's all you should be saying after an NFL Combine. But some of you guys are so lusty for that bod and that speed and that jump. You think he's going to be the greatest quarterback ever? I don't know, and you don't either. Shut your balls up. I don't know why I said balls, but you get what I'm saying. You're all thinking with your pants right now. You're not thinking with logic. You forgot that this guy couldn't even beat bleeping Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt sucks. That's all I got on Anthony Richardson. Sean Mapes, thoughts?
I mean, he was 99th percentile in literally every athletic measurement.
Which is cool.
And size.
Good for him.
Explosion.
He earned himself a lot of money this weekend. Like, there's no way he falls out of the top 10 now. That's it.
I will say, I was telling you this earlier. Like, I hate that the combine, like a guy like Anthony Richardson dominates the combine, and I does change. Like, I am like, oh, I'm more interested in Anthony Richardson now. But yeah, I am who I am. What can I say? I'm a big, dumb football scout, football mind, and I see a guy who's 6'4", first among 2023 draft quarterbacks, and I lose my mind because he's also the fastest and the strongest.
All of those things are great, and maybe someday he'll be a great quarterback.
He said that he was a mix between Cam Newton and Lamar Jackson.
He used to call himself Cam Jackson in 11th grade.
That sounds like a great quarterback to me.
I used to call myself the PG train in 11th grade.
You are the PG train.
No.
Choo-choo.
See, like, you can do all of these things this time of year. And Mega does point out, it is rather hypocritical of me to yell at you to calm down. But
I also thought that.
Anthony Richardson, folks, you need to relax for a second and just think about what this guy did as a quarterback. Everything he is doing is great. Okay? It's exciting. I would love to have someone like that over Davis Mills, right? But Texans Twitter, keep it in your pants. This should not have changed your opinion as dramatically as it has. Remember Johnny Manziel's pro day? Remember Zach Wilson's pro day? Wow, look at the throw he made. Like, these are flash moments that do not mean he's going to be able to translate to the NFL.
None of them had the broad jump that Anthony Richardson has, though. Also, you know who was also underutilized at Florida?
Who?
Dameon Pierce.
Dameon Pierce was underutilized at Florida.
The Texans could start a monopoly on underused Florida Gators.
Yeah, that's fair.
That dominate the NFL.
That could be it. That could be it.
They're just like, Dan Mullen was an awful coach. We will take all of his players and win with them in the NFL.
I don't want to be more depressed about the Gators. Okay, like it drives me crazy. Like, wow, look at this is like the best quarterback they've had since like Tebow, and they couldn't do anything with it. Thinking about like all the guys along the way, like John Brantley.
Oh, John Brantley.
Oof. Everyone's forgetting about C.J. Stroud, by the way. C.J. Stroud, per Daniel Jeremiah, had one of the best throwing sessions I've ever seen at the Combine. I don't think we should all of a sudden vault Anthony Richardson over C.J. Stroud. I don't.
But what was his broad jump?
He didn't do any. C.J. Stroud didn't do any of that stuff.
Scared to compete.
Will Levis has a cannon because he told us that. I just don't think that what these guys do in shorts should change your mind as much as it seemingly has about specific players over the weekend. Like Bryce Young measuring at 5'10" and 1/8, but also weighing in at 204 pounds should not be something to panic over. It shouldn't. Kyler Murray was the same height. Murray's big issue has not been his ability to play in the league, though I think he's a lot more quick and athletic than Bryce Young, who didn't do any of the athletic stuff. The only guy who did was Richardson, who was an absolute stud when he did it. Young, I thought, interestingly, weighed the same weight as Russell Wilson at the Combine. So he's capable of gaining weight. Was that weight all just drinking a ton of water and eating as much as possible over the last couple of weeks? Maybe. But if Russell Wilson, who is a stockier player, who's weighed as much as 225 pounds, I think weighs 215 pounds now. If Russell Wilson can build up that frame, the frame for Bryce Young is something that you're most concerned about. The height is something that you think could be an issue, but it wasn't an issue for him in college. I get reservations about Young, but I don't think this weekend should have changed your mind drastically about him. We all had a pretty good idea that going into this weekend, he's not that tall. And the same thing with Anthony Richardson. Look, he blew everybody away. He did. He was awesome. He ran a 4.44, a 4.43, had an incredible vertical jump, though what does that matter for a quarterback? Had an incredible broad jump, though I guess that matters a little bit more for a quarterback if we're talking about quarterback sneaks and jumping over the line or something like that. Like, there's a lot of really impressive things that Richardson did. and he had a really nice 60-yard throw. But some of the same issues that he had in college were still there. Like, he missed some intermediate throws. He is a project. He might be awesome someday, but he's going to need a lot of help. The good thing that he has in his pocket, his back pocket, is that he at the very least can move around, which I will tell any person who is still a Davis Mills truther. Davis Mills has nothing in his pocket that isn't related to throwing a football, which he is not very good at. Is he NFL good? Sure, yeah. I'm not saying he's like awful. He made it to the NFL, but he's very inconsistent with his throwing. So is Anthony Richardson. That could get better over time. We saw it get better with Josh Allen, but it might not. And I think that we have to stop telling ourselves that a guy who was a 54% passer in college, where it is very easy to find open wide receivers, are you telling me that that guy is definitely going to get better and saying, well, Josh Allen did, well, Jalen Hurts did? They are not the norm. Improving as a quarterback is not a guarantee. It can happen. It doesn't always happen. And Richardson was great. I'm not going to rule out the idea of taking Richardson, though it doesn't sound like the Texans are going to take Richardson based off of what I'm hearing. But what he did was impressive. And what he did was impressive. Like, I'm also not telling you, like, that wasn't cool. If you're into the NFL Combine, that was. But don't change your mind on who the best quarterback in this year's draft is based off of this. Young was the best quarterback in college football last year. My biggest reservations are his size. They remain his size. But I'm not going to tell you the guy's going to suck. And I'm not going to tell you that Richardson's going to suck either. I'm just not going to say all of a sudden he's the best quarterback out there. And I'm not going to start banging on the table for the Texans to draft Richardson because of what he did in shorts. But people are doing it. Enough people are, and it's annoying. This weekend has been turned into something as far as importance that it truly isn't the NFL Combine. It has become an event for the league, and for those who are obsessed with draft conversation, which, to be perfectly honest, I'm not. I find it boring. Those people, okay, maybe you're into it online. I'm not. And I'm just saying, as someone who has been covering the league for a decade plus, I have learned that we do not know anything coming out of the NFL Combine. We don't. You can get excited about certain players, and certain players are going to get drafted a little bit earlier. That's really all you got. So keep it in your pants. The most interactive sports talk show in Houston. You can jump on Twitch, twitch.tv/ESPN975. You can also text us or tweet us, the HRNP listener line, 713-780-3776. I really think we overstate the importance of the NFL Combine. Kevin Romas on the Twitch chat commented, if you can suck in college, Richardson, and the Combine turns you into the number one pick, why even bother playing college football? First, as far as the odds of Anthony Richardson, he is now second to be drafted per odds. Young is the favorite at minus 240. Richardson now second at plus 380. And the Bears are saying that they are going to trade the pick. But to push back on a bit of that comment, Richardson didn't suck in college. Richardson was inconsistent. Richardson's wow moments were like, whoa. And that's how you catch the eye of a scout. And then, of course, you add all of the physical traits that he just showed off this weekend. It's unfair to say he sucked. I think it's fair, though, to question whether or not he's ever going to be consistent as a passer. But if you design an offense around his strengths, he could certainly be successful in the NFL. Daniel Jones is a quarterback that I think we look at and we think he's not that athletic. I think a lot of us were pretty surprised by how athletic he was in his first year out of Duke. Remember that run that he had and he just completely ate it at the 15-yard line? It was in Monday Night Football, I think, Sean?
Yeah, it was simultaneously the most athletic and unathletic man can look by just pulling away from an NFL defense. I think he was clocked at the fastest run anyone had that year, including Lamar Jackson, everyone you think is fast.
Right. And look, when you have strengths like that and they're sort of forgotten by NFL teams, which it seems like the Giants did, it is the responsibility of the coach to find a way to use it. So give a lot of credit to Brian Daboll, who was like, wait a second, let's have Daniel Jones run a lot this year. And even though Daniel Jones is a pretty good passer, let's have Daniel Jones take less risks. And guess what? There were less fumbles. There were less interceptions. Daboll did a hell of a job with Daniel Jones this past season. if you have a guy like Anthony Richardson or a guy like Justin Fields or a guy like Lamar Jackson, you have a lot to work with as an offensive mind, even if the guy isn't a great passer. But you still have to be a good thrower of the football. And that's the big thing with Richardson. This weekend does not change that. It doesn't. You knew Richardson was a super athlete going into this weekend. You know it more so coming out of this weekend. But does that change how he is going to be in the NFL? Does that make him better than C.J. Stroud? Hell, does that make him better than Will Levis? I don't think you can conclusively say yes to any of those. I definitely thought he did a hell of a job. And yeah, he deserves to get his flowers, but not to the point where you're saying he's definitively the best quarterback in the draft, or you're changing your opinion on who the Texans should draft right now entirely based off of the weekend. Because most people who are doing that are prisoners of the moment. And we all tend to do that. But acknowledge that you are a prisoner of the moment right now and that you are not looking at this realistically.